Hi, this is Jim from TrekWorld, and today I want to talk to you about a collector's edition book released by TV Guide. In particular, Farewell to Star Trek The Next Generation. As a reminder, if there are items in this video that you are interested in purchasing, there will be affiliate links that you can find in the description. Additionally, please consider supporting this channel. The easiest way to do so is to press the join button on any video. For a mere 99 cents a month, it will get you access to private community messages, prioritized response to comment, exclusive live streams, and access to videos that have not been released yet to the public. So in 1994, TV Guide produced this little tome that was then sent out to local newsstands in celebration of the final season, final episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. Now, as a result, it's going to cover quite a few areas that we'll step through here in a moment. I'll show you some examples of the individual pages. Now, one thing to mention is it was produced and distributed from Canada. So it was not a U.S. publication, but you could get it in the United States. But it was actually sourced from Canada. The interior pages are fairly glossy, as you can see. This is a really nice quality book for what you would normally not expect at a TV Guide. Now, probably one of the most interesting things I saw was there is an article by Rick Berman on Gene Roddenberry's vision. In particular, he talks about how he knew very little about Star Trek when Gene Roddenberry invited him on Star Trek. Now, in this commentary about Gene, Rick is very thankful for getting involved in Star Trek and the things that Gene shared with him. Gene's future showed us we'll get through this. Berman likes that idea. Another thing that's pretty slick is they actually had access to the set at the end of the television series, just as we were getting ready to close shooting. Now, one of the things that I thought was interesting was I'd always assumed that Star Trek The Next Generation had run for 7 years and ended because that was the plan, to run it for 7 years and end. But then, when I started reading through this and some of the comments that Berman made, I've gone back and I've tried to do some looking, and I'm not quite sure now that that was the planned end. So what was really interesting is a quote that he said to TV Guide while they were on the set. And that quote goes like this: "There are a lot of reasons why this decision is being made, and I am not aware of all of them. Some of them have to do with Paramount's desire to continue this series as a series of movies instead of TV, because they don't really think that you can have a successful TV show and movies in the cinema with the same characters at the same time." And Jonathan Frakes also had a quote for them that I found was pretty interesting. In it, he goes, "If there's any truth to the rumor that Paramount makes $80 million a year on this show, then why in God's name are they killing the cash cow?" And then he sighs, but they don't ask us, do they? And fascinatingly enough, even back then, Frakes goes, "I wonder if they're going to the well too many times." If you can't really do that and still sustain interest in a show. These are words that Rick Berman himself would echo when Enterprise was canceled 10 years after the end of Star Trek The Next Generation. Berman does relate the fact that there was a hierarchical change in Paramount right around 1992, 2 years before the end of the series. And he said the decision was made by upper management at that point that the show would not go past 7 years. So they really didn't discuss their reasonings why, but they held firm to that over the last 2 years. Wrap it up. Now, as you saw in a couple of pictures I showed you a moment ago, there are quite a few good high-res behind-the-scenes pictures here that I think is pretty slick. Now, it does contain a sneak peek at all good things. It doesn't really give away any spoilers, obviously. And then it goes into biographies of each of the actors, such as, obviously here, Jean-Luc Picard, Patrick Stewart. Talks about his background in stage and theater, the things he did before Star Trek, and what other things he's planning to appear in the near future. And I have to admit that walking back through time and looking at some of these cast pictures makes me feel old. Look at this picture of Brent Spiner. I don't ever remember Brent looking that young. Obviously, he did. Now, another neat thing that I really liked in here is they went to NASA, and they got comments from astronauts that had flown on Challenger, Endeavour, and Discovery. And their responses and their comments are right here. I actually remember Mae Jemison's public statements about Star Trek back in the 1990s. And of course, because you got to remember, Trivial Pursuit was a craze back in the mid-90s. Now, this is a section they couldn't really do a lot of justice to. It's a selection that lists the valuable collectibles that Star Trek fans should be able to collect in 1994. It is, however, limited to things beginning with Next Generation and going forward. So the Next Generation technical manual is in here, but the Starfleet technical manual from TOS is not mentioned in here. And of course, it gives us a little bit of a glimpse at the farewell party in Hollywood for the cast when the show sat down. And just so that you yourself can plan the proper farewell party with your friends, there's suggestions on how to do that. So there's some sneak preview areas in here. They're going to talk a little bit about Voyager. They're going to talk a little bit about Deep Space Nine, which of course was midway through its run at about this point. And we're going to talk about the upcoming Star Trek movies based off Next Generation. And the balance of the book is set up by season with a synopsis guide on each episode. Now, one of the things that's interesting is in these synopses, they will sometimes put comments in italics, which tell you about the importance or significance of this particular episode in Star Trek canon, for lack of a better word. For instance, Lonely Among Us is the first episode to give us some idea that Data has more than just a normal curiosity about Sherlock Holmes. And then, so you won't kill yourself out of frustration, it actually shows you the solution to that Klingon word search.